Welcome to UNCG. I'm Aaron Terranova. This is the Master of Science in Athletic Training Education program, and you're about to be a preceptor. So sit back, relax, enjoy the video you're about to watch. Make sure you watch all the modules in our series, and I'll see you at the end of them for your final examination. Good luck. Welcome to UNCG Entry-Level Masters in Athletic Training Education program, Preceptor Initial Training. I am your host, Aaron Terranova, and through these next series of modules, we'll be going over the skills, knowledge, and content you need to be a preceptor for our program. Today's module, Module 1, Introduction to Athletic Training Education. Really brief timeline on how far we've come in AT education throughout time. As you can see, in 1996, when I was in school, we established the ACI, which is the Approved Clinical Instructor, and the Clinical Instructor Educator, or the CIE. That was around for a while, and then in 2004, we had that landmark decision that ended the internship, and things were evolving behind the scenes for a long time, pretty much the next decade, as talk started to grow and grow about what we wanted to do moving forward in AT education. In 2011, the 5th edition of the Competencies came out, and that's the edition that we currently use and abide by. And in 2012, CAATE came out with a new set of standards for programs. It was revised in the spring of 2013, but those are the standards that we use. If you want to have a very good reading, I recommend reading this article that I have highlighted right here. It's by DeForge and Benke from 1999. Yes, it's a little bit dated, being now it's almost 16 years old, but it does give you a very nice history of how we got to where we were in 1999. If that's not good enough, I do recommend the BOC exam, the first 40 years. Hope you guys can see that. I am not sure where I got this, but if you like to borrow it, feel free. You can borrow that and read that. But if you do want a nice book, far beyond the shoebox, we do have the Shoebox Society with the NATA. This is a very good read that talks about some of the pioneers, men and women who have made NATA what it is. So if you want a nice brief history, that's it. In terms of AT education, where we are now, we have formal instruction, which is classroom and laboratory, and then we have clinical education and the competencies. They all have to merge and work very well with each other. The clinical education is where the rubber meets the road, and that's where you guys come in as preceptors. We're going to give them that didactic knowledge in the classroom, in the laboratories, but it's where you are going to see how they actually apply that into real clinical practice. The competencies, that is what they need to have when they leave our program. We are on that 5th edition, like I mentioned, but this is what we can see our students have. So all students across the country have to have these competencies taken care of, have to be assessed on them, and have to be evaluated on them. How we do that, that's up to institutional autonomy. Now, the quick review of the educational competencies, if you haven't seen the new ones, just so you know, there's a little bit of difference in the languages. If you come down here where I'm highlighting, you can see something that says acute care 9, acute care 10. That's AC 9 and 10. They use verbiage to sort of differentiate what the students need to have done. So when you see differentiate, which is highlighted there, what that means, that student, that could be done by just talking about, discussing it, writing, etc. You can differentiate things. But to establish and maintain, that's almost like the old psychomotor skills that you guys might be used to seeing. So using different verbiage, the competencies kind of show what students should and how they should be assessed and tested on it. Please understand, student travel as a first responder is no longer not only no longer recommended, you're not allowed to do it. It's against the competencies. So our students will never travel by themselves or be placed in a situation where they are covering practice by themselves. That's new for the competencies. But moving forward to 2012 CAATE Standards, these are the standards for our program. And what you see is the clinical education coordinator position is one of the standards. That's who I am. And you can see what I have to do. Besides supervising progression, I have to evaluate both the site, the student, you as a preceptor, and I have to train you. So we are doing D right now. I am training you, and I will be evaluating you later on during your rotations. So what are you as a preceptor? This is from the standards, number 37, and I'm not going to read this verbatim, but you can see what you are responsible for. In a nutshell, you are responsible for assessing, mentoring, and helping a student get through their program and move through their competencies. You are where the rubber meets the road, like I said earlier. So what does it take to be an entry-level athletic trainer in your clinical setting? That's what we're looking for. Your responsibilities, you have to demonstrate compliance with our policies and procedures, hence the training modules here. You must be credentialed. I cannot emphasize this enough. Make sure you are licensed in the state of North Carolina and make sure you have your BOC. We'll be asking for those documents every year. You cannot be enrolled in our current program, which none of you are, and you must be receiving ongoing education, which is what we're going to be doing periodically as a preceptor with our program. Key terms to be a preceptor and key terms in athletic training. It's athletic trainer, athletic training room. If you are used to saying trainer in training room, get it out of your vernacular right now. That is actually a non-compliance for us. We've already been dinged on it, so please get in the habit. If you don't already do so, use the proper terminology. ATAP and MSAT, these terms are going to be used interchangeably. The MSAT is actually the degree they get on their diploma. In clinical rotation objectives, you're going to see these a ton, and we're going to talk about them in the last module. But these are the proficiencies that the students need to have completed within their rotation. So when we talk about the fifth module, you'll see these in a more real-life context. Preceptor, that's you. This replaces the old approved clinical instructor, if you're still familiar with that term. An athletic trained student, please do not call them student athletic trainers. It might seem like not a big deal. Student athletic trainers imply that they are part of the workforce. Athletic trained student implies that they are a student, and we must remember they are student first. They are paying tuition. They are not on scholarship. They are not on assistantship. They are paying for an education. So we got to keep in mind that they are a student first and foremost. Direct supervision, ability to intervene in supervised autonomy. These definitions come directly from up high. Direct supervision means that you have to be able to supervise your student at all times. And what that means is you have to be able to intervene on behalf of the patient and the student. And we're going to talk about some examples of how that can work out in real life situations. But please, you're not allowed ever to leave your student unsupervised. Supervised autonomy is a term that we use, and supervised autonomy means that we want to give our students independence. We want to give them autonomy. We want them to do it in a safe location, not only for them, but obviously for the patient. So we're not going to put a student out there on their own or put a student in a situation where they are not comfortable, which may sacrifice the health, well-being of the student and or the patient. Finally, two key terms you might see come up is evidence-based practice. You're going to know that there's a push for the CEUs in evidence-based practice. It is the research, it is the expertise, and it is the patient value all come in to make evidence-based practice. We design our curricula around evidence-based practice, so our students will be using them. The bottom one, something you might not be familiar with, that's the disablement model. And we will be teaching our students the disablement model. And in a very brief way, the disablement model works this way, that you have the pathophysiology, the impairment, the limitation, the disability, and then social limitation. So if you look at the example that I have here, let's say a patient has a labral tear. That's the pathophysiology injury. The impairment then becomes they have decreased strength, which means they can't throw the ball as hard, which means they're no longer a starting pitcher on their team, which means they've lost their athletic scholarship. So if you follow up and down the disablement chain, you can see where we can intervene as athletic trainers. This is a model that is going to come up to the forefront in all of athletic training education. We are using it now in our program. So when you see students talking about disablement model, this is what they're referring to. If you want more information on disablement model, let me know. I'll be happy to send you some more information. I'm just keeping this brief. So those are some of the key terms that our students will be using, that I will be using, that our program will be using, and that we hope you also will embrace and start using not only within your own daily professional practice, but obviously when you're talking and interacting with our students. The future of athletic education, which is going to be how we wrap up this first module. You know what's happened with 2022 and the Strategic Alliance. We are moving to the entry-level masters, which means what does that mean for UNCG? We don't know yet. We don't know yet. There is rumors that they're going to be changing the standards to better reflect a graduate level. I don't know how it's going to impact us because we're already at the graduate level. Will it be impacting our rotations? Possibly. Will it be impacting the applications and the students we have? Possibly. We don't know. But for now, we are already where we need to be. We are an entry-level master's program. So welcome. You are now going to be part of the future. But the first two bullet points, the statement and the outcome, if I can come over here, If you want to read the statement on strategic alliance, it's right here. It's available right off the NTA, and you can read about questions, etc., which is going to be obviously available to you as a member of the NTA. And then the outcome measures off the CAATE page, which is located right here. They talk about the various outcomes, and you can see, if you look here, master programs are only 29 of them. We are one of 29, but there's 336 bachelor's programs. So who knows what the future of athletic training education is really going to look like when all is said and done, possibly in 2022. So if you want to look at the outcome measures, you want to look at the statement, please feel free. If you have any other questions regarding this move, etc., please let me know. I'd be happy to forward you any information, literature, etc. on it. So you have completed Module 1, a brief introduction to athletic education, where we were, where we are, and where we are going. You can now go ahead and move to Module 2. I will remind you, please make sure you complete all the modules. There is a quiz at the end of your final module to ensure that you have gone through this initial preceptor training. I want to thank you for being a preceptor. I want to wish you best luck in the following modules, and I'll see you then.